Hey everyone, I'm Tim.
And I'm the only Luddite in the OSINT world, Chris.
And welcome to the OSINT Output. And there's when it starts recording.
Oh, did it start? Or are you saying that's when it starts?
When it goes 3, 2, 1 down at the bottom.
Yeah, I'm not looking at the screen, man. You know, I can't tell the countdown from like looking at the light in your eyes.
I know, you need to be looking at me while we do this stuff. It makes it so much more fun. I can see the passion in your eyes too.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's why I'm wearing sunglasses at night.
Yes. Gonna be singing that song later now.
You're welcome.
And everybody under probably 29 will never know what that song is.
I mean,
we lost all of them just now.
It exists. It's out there.
So episode 10 today.
Dude, that's it, man. It's a milestone. And we're at like 95 subscribers on Spotify.
Oh, we're getting up there.
We're the fastest growing no budget podcast about OSINT specifically with an instruction fortitude out there.
Yeah, Joe Rogan, look out. Today we want to get into something just a little bit. Well, it's going to appear technical, but we're going to do just wave tops of everything and talk about history and talk about in my opinion, why it can be useful for OSINT investigations, because it can be depending on how you use it. And it's going to be ransomware.
I think this will be a good setup for a future like deep dive or drill down episode.
Yes. One of the things that I think Chris and I both want to get into more heavily, it's true cybersecurity research over just, content discovery and collection. So diving more deep into those can be very useful for certain audiences.
I agree.
But, we have a really quick story today because it recently just happened and it directly relates to ransomware. And it's about a basketball player. So anytime we get into sports, like I can see the giddiness in Chris's eyes.
Yeah.
Because
this guy played at Penn State, man.
Yeah. In the United States, I went back to Russia. But this story was relatively recent. I mean, super recent. It was released last week. And a Russian basketball player was arrested in France on a suspicion of being involved in ransomware activities on behalf of a Russian affiliated ransomware group.
Yeah, he was the prime negotiator, according to the open source research that we did. None of that's been verified, so we're not saying that he actually did any of that. In fact, his lawyer had one of the best arguments against him being a part of this that I've ever seen. He went, first of all, wasn't his computer. He just bought a secondhand computer. And then second of all, he's just too dumb to do it. He doesn't even know how to install an application or launch from a BIOS or any of that stuff because he's just a moron. From a computer standpoint, I'm sure his basketball IQ is out there. His degree in kinesiology, if he got a degree, I don't know.
Yeah, the exact words were, he's useless with computers and can't even install an application. I don't know if ignorance is a good defense. I guess it can work if you can prove ignorance.
But like, if you're just a negotiator, do you need to know how to do all that stuff? All you gotta do is just chat up some folks and be like, give us the money and we'll give you your documents or your encryption code or whatever version of ransomware this is.
Yeah, and according to some news reports I've seen on here, and again, there's a bunch of them. I saw one report from TechSpot saying that he may have been involved in, and his name is Danil Kazakin. He may have been involved in a ransomware group called Conti.
Oh, I thought they were dead, man.
Yeah, so their chat logs got released in 2022, which
that does fit the time frame of the charges, 2020 to 2022.
Yeah, and that's when they were really, really active. They targeted dozens, hundreds of organizations, and they actually impacted different governments as well and released documents that they obtained from them, which usually some ransomware groups that are nation state affiliated, whenever they get access to classified documents like that, they don't release them on their blogs because then they instantly become the target of that said nation state they impacted. So all we have to do, if we find out this, whatever this person's username was, we could go to the cybersecurity researchers that have access to those chat logs and say, do you see this screen name anywhere on these Jabber logs? And you can find it.
I think, and this is getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, but one of the great things about these blogs and these leak forums and breach forums and all that stuff where all this data gets dumped is it gave cybersecurity researchers a place to go to start keying in on folks. Whereas, way back in the day before these blogs and these forums really existed or they were discoverable or any of that, cybersecurity researchers just had the tech to deal with to try to figure out a way around it. And then now they could start tracking the humans from these blogs.
Yeah. Normally the fingerprint that you would use is something within the code itself. So you could go through the hex if you wanted to, if you're really into that, and try to maybe recompile it if you can. But for what they used to do, they would look for language packs or unique signatures that were in there. I mean, in some of them, they actually used, I think it was it? Because we're going to talk about it, not Petya. I think they actually found, I think it was written in Rust, and they found Russian language. They found Cyrillic characters in there. And
Yeah.
that's how they could link it back to them.
Yeah.
But anyways, going back to our current news story here. Yeah, you're right. You don't have to understand how to install an application in order to talk to someone on the phone. And for someone like this individual, right, who came to the United States and went to university over here, probably someone who could speak English fairly well, and probably other languages as well, since he is playing in France, right? Or was playing in France?
I think he was just traveling through
France.
Yeah, the arrest warrant was issued like a day before he landed at Charles de Gaulle Airport. So like they knew his travel pattern before they arrested it, I think, and because France is usually a friendly country, I think that's why it was issued that way. But I don't know if he was playing in like a European league or not. I do know that, you see this in Europe all the time is players, they travel around. There's different basketball leagues that happen at different times of the year, and players play in a bunch of different leagues over there to make ends meet and keep their skills up to date.
Yeah, and France also on a related story, arrests the Telegram one of the co-founders, Pavel Durov, last year in France, and that resulted in a bunch of not only ransomware groups taking their entire operations off of Telegram, but darknet communities as well for marketplaces. So France seems to be the place where if you want to do some cybersecurity arrests, cybercrime arrests,
or if you're going to do that stuff, don't go there.
Just don't go to France.
Yeah. His lawyer also argued that he doesn't have access to a basketball court, and that's pretty upsetting.
While he was there?
While he's, currently locked up.
I mean, professional athletes need to keep their skills up.
Yeah, well, now he can't. He's going to have to haul up toilet paper and shoot it at the commode or something. I don't know.
Haul it up. Get some wire and put it on top of the bars.
Just to be clear, we're not saying he did it. We're saying that the article says that he was arrested for this activity.
And we're saying that he's currently incarcerated as a result of this.
Yes.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens out of that. So going on to just ransomware in general, the thing about ransomware is in current times, it's something you hear every single day.
Yeah.
It's just as prolific as, whatever other crime you probably want to know about, whether it's, shootings in the United States or, war crimes overseas. Like, it's just something that you're going to hear about every single day now. But going back in time, because Chris loves going back in time on these stories, one of the first instances, well-known instances of ransomware was...
This is the first known one.
Yeah, the AIDS Trojan virus, right?
By Dr. Pop, which is, I'm pretty sure because he's associated with this AIDS Trojan ransomware, that's the reason Mr. Pibb is called Mr. Pibb and not Dr. Popper. So this goes back to 1989. This dude, Dr. Pop, who was... Guess what his job was, if you had to guess. He had a PhD from Harvard, by the way.
I feel like it was probably marketing and research.
He was an evolutionary biologist.
Okay.
Um, and he was really active in the AIDS community in Africa. And so the World Health Organization, who was going to do an AIDS forum in 1989 in Europe somewhere, and this dude, for whatever reason, was upset with these people. Now, there is some stories that say, hey, he was rejected from a position at WHO, and that's why he was upset. But that's never been proven. But we do know that he was really upset with these people. So what he did is he developed this AIDS Trojan, and he formatted 20,000 floppy disks, got the addresses of people attending this forum, and mailed these disks to everybody from a fake organization like PC Cyborg in Panama or something like that. That was the original. And so, and all right. And so what this thing did is you put it into your computer, and it had all these AIDS research documents on there, but it also had this malware that encrypted the files by using a very sophisticated letter shift cipher after 90 reboots. So you had to reboot the machine 90 times before it would take effect. And that was apparently coordinated. Apparently, in some of his writings, he was like, hey, it's going to take, up to 3 months before this really hits most of the people I sent it to. Now, for those of you that don't remember computers in 1989, you had to reboot that thing constantly. Like if you wanted to change softwares or if you wanted to play a different game, you had to reboot the system. So for some people, this happened rather quickly. So after 90 reboots, its cipher shifted and locked down all the files. And then to get the decrypt code, you had to mail $189 cash to this P.O. box for PC Cyborg in Panama.
Specifically talking about the reboots there, I'm assuming that MS-DOS and maybe Mac, right? Because if he targeted Mac,
And it did not target Mac.
It just targeted.
Yeah.
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 So,
So this dude got arrested in Ohio at his parents' house and then extradited to the UK. And then he got basically a slap on the wrist because his lawyer argued that he was insane because he was, and this is questionable, right? This isn't confirmed. He walked around everywhere wearing a box on his head and condoms on his nose.
Okay.
Which I don't like. I guess he had a good nose hole in the box, so you could tell. I don't like.
Who knows?
So wear a condom before you go in the box. I think it's the moral of this.
Alrighty. So some other types of early ransomware that Chris did a little bit of research into, GP code. And just looking at the name before I even, started doing some research into it myself, because I'm more like learn what I can now and maybe go into the past to see like the history of it, especially if I'm doing like a brief. But GP code, when I look at it, I think of GPG or PGP. So is that kind of how it works?
Well, so the reason this one made the list is this was the first ransomware in like 2004, something like that, that was distributed by email with, malicious links that would download the ransomware. Before that, you had to go through all this legwork, like formatting 20,000 disks. But like the reason that made the list is because that was one of the first mass distributions where you didn't have to physically encounter with another person to distribute the ransomware. And email was growing in popularity, so it was able to tag more people, and the internet was more interconnected.
And to get some of those email lists, it was super simple because, again, like all these massive Excel files at that time, like massive data frames,
they were just out there, man.
You could go out there and see like all these email addresses. Like, I'm just going to email this out and see where it goes. And then people, and again, this is people being trolls too, because like this happening, they could see it and know that it's probably a malicious email. And they were like, I'm going to send that to my boss, and let him open that up today.
That's for him,
and we'll see what happens. But Yeah, it looks like this one used. Ooh, it did use RSA encryption to make the recovery nearly impossible unless you had the secret key to decrypt it. So that's super interesting there. Because with Age Trojan, like if you knew the cipher that he used, then you could have decrypted it by
Yeah.
yourself.
I mean, fortunately, he put the cipher in the malicious code, so all you had to do was know how to access it. Now, a ton of people got scared. They just deleted all their files
Yeah.
and just gave up. But if you knew what you were doing in 1989, which nobody did, or 1990, I
Yep.
guess is when it really started hitting people because it was it was a long-term delay.
Okay. Now, moving into I guess the more recent ransomware, especially some of the really really popular ones, right? Crypto Locker. What can we say about that, Chris?
Well, so that came about because of the funds transfer. So before, when you're looking at pretty much anything prior to what 2010, for ransomware, you're looking at uh, a physical, some sort of physical transfer of funds or even credit card, something along that lines. And then Crypto Locker came out around the same time that Bitcoin was growing in popularity.
Mhm.
So then, cyber criminals at that point could go, hey, here's a way for me to get untraceable cash. I don't need a bank account for them to send this to. I don't need them to mail me a bunch of cash at a P.O. box that then someone could sit on and watch me come pick it up. So that was a big step there because it changed ransomware from the cyber criminal perspective of going, now I can get untraceable funds out of these people.
And it does look like they had the ability, because again, Bitcoin back then, cryptocurrency in general, was still up and coming in the world,
Yeah.
but people still didn't understand how to get it. So it looked like you could still pay with certain vouchers or services, because even back then, Western Union was still a service that a lot of
Oh yeah.
dark
Yeah.
web places still accepted, which was immediately traceable, right, wherever it goes. But this one, for Crypto Locker, it looks like it was also distributed via email as well. And again, asymmetric encryption using that.
Yeah. And they got smarter. They weren't like the archivist folks in 2006 who used the same uh, cryptographic code to decrypt everything. Like, so archivists sent out a bunch of stuff through websites and emails, which encrypted your stuff, but it was the same code for everything.
Uh, and this, again, from a cyber perspective, not cool if you, well, and even then, like in 2006, if you're wanting to decrypt something, like, and the communities back then weren't talking to each other as well. So if you had a certain cybersecurity researcher who uncovered an exploit and then knew how to either prevent it or recover files as a result of this exploit, a lot of cybersecurity researchers weren't talking back then regarding it.
Yeah.
It wasn't like
That's
a
a valid
really
point.
cohesive community, because it wasn't until bug bounty programs started being released by major software publishers that cybersecurity researchers realized they won't be, stigmatized or, kind of kicked out of the community for divulging this as a part of a responsible disclosure.
Getting ahead of ourselves again, just a little bit. One of the RAS groups that frequently targets organizations in Australia, they put out a bug bounty program on their malware, their ransomware, to make it better. So they paid pretty high regards for ethical hackers, essentially, to find the issues in their code.
That actually occurs a lot for darknet marketplaces as well. Again, on the same line, where they're like, "Hey, find issues in our website. If you do, we'll pay like $50 for a small one, up to $5,000 for a large one." Now the next ones, and these are the ones that are pretty prolific. So, and these are ones that if you want to search on your own, you can just Google them. You'll instantly come up with a ton of research, so you can dig into it. But NotPetya and WannaCry in that order. So with NotPetya, this one was specifically designed to target a specific country in an attempt to bring them to a crumbling halt.
Yeah,
Right?
it set out to destroy their files, which is one of the This is like the first ransomware that really aimed to destroy everything you have versus just encrypt it or steal it and then sell it back. So this didn't have the ransom part of that, but it operated in a similar fashion,
And with NotPetya,
and it
the
got out of hand
I,
fast.
yeah, it one of the organizations that it impacted was the shipping company Maersk. And if you know anything about, uh, I guess, overseas shipping, that's one of the largest companies in the world that does a lot of it. I mean, they've never gotten a boat stuck in the Panama Canal. No, not Panama Canal. They never got a boat stuck in the Suez Canal like Evergreen did. But still,
Yeah, but they had one taken over by pirates, and Tom Hanks was there.
yeah, that's right. Captain Phillips, my man. But not Pet. Yeah, I think it was discovered because, or linked back to Russia because they use certain Cyrillic characters within the code as like comments or even arguments or
I
commands.
believe that you're correct on that.
Yeah. So with NotPetya, that was likely, or now cybersecurity researchers are stating almost certainly affiliated with Russia.
Yeah.
And the the origin of this malware
Ooh, I'm excited now.
was there was an incident back in 2004, 2015, uh, and there were some things that were stolen from a certain government agency. It was NSA, and I don't believe the NSA has ever publicly acknowledged the theft of its exploits. It's very, very likely the exploit that's used in NotPetya and also WannaCry, which is the Eternal Blue exploit, was discovered by NSA. And the reason why a lot of cybersecurity researchers think that before NotPetya started hitting a lot of these computer systems in Ukraine and then around the globe was Microsoft released a patch approximately 2 to 3 months before the incident started occurring and said this is a critical vulnerability. Fix it now. Do not wait, because it also didn't just impact the operating system for clients; it also impacted the operating system for servers as well, for that architecture.
And then branched out, which is how you get your shipping lanes or your shipping companies all jacked.
Yeah. So if you're a server admin out there, make sure you're always patching your systems and verifying them first.
For everybody. Update, patch, find the latest and greatest, make sure it's verified, and then update your stuff. That
Don't
is one of
ever
the
install from unknown sources.
that is one of the best ways to stay protected. Uh, so yeah, update your stuff.
So the next one is it's called WannaCry simply because of the things that people wanted to do, but the name of it was WannaCryptor, and it's likely to believe to be linked to North Korea. But Chris, you want to tell us about WannaCry?
I believe, and God, I hope I'm right on this, but this was one of the large expansions for ransomware as a service, right? That's the RAS that I was talking about earlier.
Yeah. So ransomware as a service. Now that we're getting into it, that's where a a person or an organization develops an exploit that can be almost certainly easily used, and they develop software along with it. So all you have to do is send it to someone or install it on someone's computer remotely, or social engineering them into going to a website and downloading it themselves. And then that group is the one who have conducted it. But the original person who created it, the actual ransomware creator, they get a portion of the proceeds whenever something's paid out. It could be automatic, where like automatically like 30% goes to a different wallet, probably on cryptocurrency now, which is how a lot of people's paying. Or the group, when they get their funds, they pay a certain proceeds to the original creator. But with WannaCry, it was it was kind of funny because whenever you paid the ransom, nothing happened. So, and if I'm not mistaken, because again, I've done a lot of studying on recent ransomwares, it was because they didn't do the wallets correctly. So, what a lot of ransomware groups now will do is whenever a system is impacted, they'll create a unique key that is used to decrypt that specific system, so they know which one's decrypted, so they can say, "Hey, we're good. They've been paid." Or they create a brand new cryptocurrency wallet every single time a system's impacted. And again, this is done by the software itself, the malware. And then they know that's been paid, so they're good. But with WannaCry, I think they only use like 3 different wallets,
And
and
they
that
hit
was
all
it.
these systems.
Okay. Now, how do you feel about this, Chris? Do you believe that a lot of ransomware is nation state sponsored.
I mean, I think it's growing in that direction. I still don't believe that a lot of it is sponsored. Now the attacks, I definitely think that that is growing from a nation state standpoint. I still think that there's, if we're focusing on nation state, I could definitely see how they're reaching out to these groups or gathering the code in some way using ransomware as a service, or they're even using IABs, the intermediate uh, access brokers, to get stuff out there. But I do think that there is a growing nation state sponsorship for this stuff. And I think Iran recently said, "Hey, we'll pay extra if you can attack Israel or the US with ransomware." So, that I mean, that is nation state sponsored.
Yeah. And one of the things I will say for a lot of the mentality and methodology of these companies and how they view the United States is, and what well Western countries in general, because just where a lot of the nation state sponsored hacking activity comes
Yeah.
from is, Asian and
Well,
Middle Eastern states.
yeah, I would put
Any
Russia, Iran, and North Korea at the top of that list.
exactly, whatever hurts the U.S., regardless if it hurts their allies, sometimes automatically improves their standing in the world community.
Yeah.
Right. So that's a very heavy methodology for them. Now, for some types of actual ransomware, what they do, a lot of the ransomware, other than, we talked about a few here, like NotPetya, there's probably a couple of other ones out there, they aren't really designed to completely erase files on your system. It's just to encrypt it. And are there any other types of ransomware that maybe do different things other than just encrypting files or directories on your computer?
Yeah, so there's been a trend in what they call double and even now triple extortion. And so not only are they encrypting the stuff on your system, but they're taking that stuff as well. So then they're like, all right, pay us to decrypt it, uh, or we'll release it because now it's on. Now we own it.
Mhm.
And now with the triple extortion, they're even adding in, at this point, we can DDoS you or we can go after your customers too. So now you really have to pay us or we're doing everything.
And when it comes to extorting people, what, again, we're not lawyers, right?
Yeah.
We're not financial analysts, but if you're impacted, one of the things you should do immediately
It's
is
not pay it.
not immediately pay it, because it can be like really really crucial for you to get those files back, which we all understand. But if you were to immediately pay it, like Chris said, what's to stop them from continuously asking for more money and then go like, well, man, you know what? Thanks for doing that. But we also have all the names of your patients. What if we were to extort them as well,
Yeah.
or in certain senses, your customers? There was a, and again, I love referencing other OSINT communities, other people on the podcast. So recently in Darknet Diaries, there was a ransomware which targeted a mental health facility. I think it was in Norway or Sweden. Have to go back and fix that. But he impacted this mental health facility, which had all the customers, excuse me, not customers, um, impacted this mental health facility, had all these patients' names, their addresses, their psychiatrists, doctors, providers' names, as well as their specific case notes that they saved online.
Ooh.
So they knew the diagnoses, like their past life. And the mental health facility was like, we're not going to pay you. Ain't going to do that. So this dude took it to the next level. Since he had all of these patients' names and phone numbers, started contacting them individually and said, I have your personal information and I will release it if I don't. Now, think about what that means. Like,
Yeah.
these people
Yeah.
shared very intimate secrets about their lives, and you're saying, I'm going to go after these dudes. That just instantly, even in like hacking circles, which is can get kind of off the wall sometimes, even they were like, bro, seriously? No, that's something
We've,
that you
we've,
don't do.
we've gone too far.
Yeah.
Now, let me buy an SSN and a credit card number.
But yeah, it was great. Let me look up the actual episode so I can give you that one. So for Darknet Diaries, check out episode 159 of Stamo, and Jack Resider talks to Joe Tidy, who specifically mentions like, hey, they impacted Stamo, which was that mental health facility, and it. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I gotta go back and correct that. Finland was the private psychotherapy clinic.
I think you picked two countries that weren't. They're close. They're close.
Yeah, I mean, like I thought they were on the Scandinavian Peninsula, right?
They're close. You're fine. You're fine.
I'm gonna look it up now.
Tim and I digress over the pronunciation of the name Joe Tiddy, Tidy.
Definitely Tidy. I don't know of anyone who would but yeah, like see on the Scandinavian Peninsula.
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Anyway, going back to this extortion. Alrighty, so going on to how organizations are impacted. We've already talked about a few already, which is, okay, you get an email and you download an attachment, or you navigate to a website and you download something there, impacts you. We talked about leave behind items like floppy disk. Now they're, CD-ROMs are still around, very, very few and far in between.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But we also have.
Think of the damage AOL could have done back in the day.
I think that was actually probably a common attack vector then too, where you just go up to
Just
people's
repackage
mailboxes.
a CD as AOL, free internet.
Yeah, just throw it in the
9
mailbox.
PM.
Throw it in the mailbox, or just walk back in the supermarket after you've taken them off the shelves. Because I mean, like if you remember, dude, like you could walk in there and they just had dozens of them on the shelves.
That's true.
And they were, what, $15 a piece, because that's how much the subscription was for the first month, and it was a recurring model. Yeah, you could just take all those off the shelf and walk out with them. They wouldn't know because they're so inexpensive. What other kind of common attack vectors that we can think of to target people?
I mean, social engineering is a good one.
So, but what would a social engineering attack kind of look like?
I mean, that would be. I mean, well, there's a couple ways you could do it. One, you could get someone's credentials, get into their system, and then spread it throughout a corporation that way to expand your reach. Or, I mean, if you can get someone to click the link on the email, like you talked about, you make the email look official. I know that's more in the phishing and not necessarily social engineering, but I still think it's close because
you technically are social engineering.
Yeah, you're getting
because it's
active participation by the victim.
Yeah, and that social engineering attack where you say like, oh, I access their system. It doesn't have to be a remote access as well. You could draft up an email, right, and then create a brand new email address and just change that name to like the CEO's name.
Says, everyone's gonna open this and read it.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a picnic. There's a picnic on the flight deck at 2.
Yeah, so I need you to go here, click on this link, so we can have your registration. Some other common attack vectors will almost certainly include proliferation from supply vendors.
So like supply chain attacks.
Yeah, exactly. So when you're thinking about, okay, we have this very, very large company who probably has a sophisticated infrastructure and a physical infrastructure as well to prevent outside people from coming in as regularly as they should. Well, if you have a small vendor, let's say, I don't know, like an AV company, audiovisual company, and they're supplying all your AV equipment, they could have unknowingly bought components or unknowingly installed software on those systems that will proliferate out on that entire network.
Yeah. So if you get a software distributor, somebody that does something niche, so they're small, yeah, you could pump it into there, and then when it gets distributed to wider systems.
And there's a lot of them out there. One of the things that you guys should check out if you haven't is MITRE, MITRE. They're a cybersecurity research firm here in the United States that does a lot of work for not only the United States government, but other governments throughout the world as well. And they have their attack matrix that you can check out.
Ooh, that's fascinating.
Yeah, so if you go there, you can see some of the common attack vectors that they look for, and then the associated technique for those.
Nice. Do they break down those vectors by industry, or
it's, if I'm not
mistaken, how do they break it out?
So break it out, and again, this is for the enterprise services. They break it out into 14 different categories, and then they listed techniques below them. So, for example, one of the categories is privilege escalation. That's a huge one because when you first get into a computer system and you're just, moving around between file and file, one of the things you ultimately want to get into is probably an administrator access.
Yeah, you want that sysadmin.
Exactly. If you can get there. And again, those are extremely hard to get to. But even if you have more of a power user within the organization, say you get into a leadership position, they're going to have more privileges than a normal user would.
Yeah.
So that's privilege escalation. One of them could be create, and again, these are techniques I'm talking about, account manipulation. So you change things so they can have access to. One of my favorite books and favorite series, and I hopefully will continue, is Ready Player One. And in the first book, the protagonist gets access to the antagonist's organization and managed to escalate his privileges so he can have access to files that's otherwise denied. So again, if you got, and I think nonfiction has been something that has been readily more adapted into understanding our current world, but I think fiction can be a good way to understand our world as well. I don't think people read a lot of fiction anymore. I know me and Chris do quite a bit, but
all the time.
I don't know of many people within my social circle that read a whole lot of fiction anymore. So, but yeah, check out, again, MITRE, just Google MITRE attack, or you can go to attack.mitre.org and it lists those out. And if you click on any one of these, it's going to tell you exactly what's
any of the techniques.
Yeah, what the vulnerability is. And it can also list out some examples of what malware is out there or exploits. So if you ever encounter this at your organization, you can start doing some of your own investigation, see what type of exploit was used in that. Now, some ransomware groups. I think the biggest thing here is, people, again, we're talking about techniques, and our information here won't be, I guess, up to the expert level of what you could find on a lot of other podcasts or maybe organization reading material that you can find.
There's smarter people out there on cybersecurity than Tim.
Than both of us. I think always.
I didn't even include me on that list. That's how low I am on that. But I just don't click links.
Yeah, that's one thing you should always consider. Like if you're unsure, don't go there. But one of the things that our listeners probably want to know is, if we do want to access this information, how do we do it? So, Chris, what if I wanted to access information that we've already talked about, Conti, right? Conti release. How will we do that?
Well, I mean, yeah. So there's a bunch of organizations that track this stuff and put out all these techniques. Tim listed one. If I'm looking for more up-to-date stuff and I want to see what's out there, I'm going to a forum, because like some, leak forums will have this. They'll have discussions about it. It won't necessarily give me all the details, but it's going to tell me who's out there, what they're doing, and where they're doing it.
And a lot of these groups will have their own websites that they set up.
A valid point.
So, for example, Conti did have their own blog for a while. I just recently, before we jumped on this podcast to try to access it, I have a website, and if anybody wants it, it's actually on our personal podcast website. I have a link directory of a lot of dark web start points. I have the ransomware groups page on there, but that one's currently down. But I did go to some of the new ones. Before this one started, with Chris talked about a brand new ransomware group that is gaining traction. It's called
BERT.
I think they're all capitalized. So I have a link to what I suspect may be their ransomware group page. It's on the dark web, so you don't really know the link is correct until it's verified by someone else. I went there and there wasn't anything published. And that's what ransomware groups will do, is whenever they get access to content where we're talking about that kind of double extortion, triple extortion, not only getting access to your information, encrypting it, but getting files from your computer and threatening to release it, the extortion aspect of getting a ransom, you can get access to a lot of really interesting information that may benefit an OSINT investigation. So if someone were to tell you, Chris, hey, I got access to a ransomware group website and I downloaded the information they impacted, as a responsible manager, what should you probably tell them to do with that information?
First of all, I would isolate anything you download from from somewhere where you don't know where it came from. Might be an attack. but you're allowed to have this information. And I think that's what you're getting at. You're allowed to get this information. You're allowed to read this information and then try to digest it and set up your threat matrix, look at your attacker potential so you can develop uh, defense systems.
So it's not, it not only can be about that, because if you're thinking about it from a cyber defense perspective or you're working in a SOC, that could be excellent for your organization. Like, hey, we've known that multiple other organizations that do the same type of work we do have been impacted by these cyber crime groups. I've downloaded the information. I see what their malware is. I'm going to analyze it to make sure that we have protections against it. I'm also thinking about it from the perspective of, let's say that I'm currently providing analysis on, maybe let's go with Russia. I'm
Okay.
currently providing analysis on Russia, and I know a hacktivist group has impacted them, and I download that information.
Oh, well, that gives me insight to what's going on there. I can start building my networks and start to identify potential vectors for myself to highlight key information.
Yeah, because it could be something as simple as a procurement document, right? Where
Yeah.
Russia bought something from one of its partners. Now I know who the originating party is. I know what was bought, how much money they used, whatever it may be, and then also the party that sold it to them. So I'm already starting to develop a network there. And Chris kind of really hit on this was, hey, if you downloaded something from an unknown website where you can't verify the authenticity or verify the files, do yourself a favor. You download it in an isolated environment.
Yeah.
Okay. So if your company is cool or you have enough money as a private researcher, of course, use an air gap computer to analyze it. But if you don't, virtual machines are always an option
Virtual
for that.
machines and sandboxes, man.
Yeah, always an option. Always, you download something like that, make sure you put it into an environment where you have complete and total control over. So if something were to happen, then you could instantly delete that partitioning, move on with your life, or get rid of the physical
Yeah.
device.
Yeah. One of just because we're talking a little bit about protection here, one of I think the standard by CISA is 3-2-1, where you want to have 3 backup systems on 2 mediums and one of them offline.
And getting into that as well, talking about 3 backup systems, it's always best to have that in a good RAID array as well, which is where you have different drives set up. So you have copies of the files on different drives. Because if you're operating at strict, hey, I'll have 4 drives, but all of them have the exact same information, right? If one of those gets impacted, then it could proliferate to the next one. So make sure you have redundant systems set up for that. What about your it's been a while since we've got together, man. How's everything doing?
It's busy. It's busy, man. I'm working from home now, which
Ooh.
I thought would be cool, and it is. Like, I really enjoy it, but like, I find myself not like I haven't defined the appropriate balance yet because like there's always something to do, and like I'm like, oh, my computer's right there. Oh, I just had a thought about work. I can just hop on and take care of it real quick, and then an hour later, I'm like, what am I doing? It's 11:30 at night, and I'm sitting here working for no reason. Like, I mean, I'm doing stuff and accomplishing stuff, but I don't understand the right balance. And then there's a traffic jam in my hallway every morning. I learned that. So I
Oh,
was late for a meeting by 38 seconds. The dogs.
they just hear you and then go out running and can't
Dude,
get past you.
yeah.
Dude, Iro does the exact same thing to me because so I have 2 dogs. One's named Zeke, one name's Iro. I never use so many passwords. So y'all, good luck on trying to get anything from me on that. Since we're talking about ransomware and social engineering. But Iro, he's like a mutt mix. He's got a little bit of coonhound in him, a little bit of pit, you know. But one of the things he always wants to do is check to see if there's food in your hand or food on you when you're walking past. And he's always in an area of high traffic with a narrow points, right? That a pinch point. So he'll look straight at you, but put his head in front of your leg. So when you walk, your leg
He's
will
just running into him,
just
man.
automatically hits him. And like it happens to people that come over to our house, it happens to our kids, and they always go, "Oh, Iro, I'm so sorry." And I was like, "Don't be nice to him. Like Number one, if you hurt him, do pat him. Do it like, hey, buddy, I'm sorry. But he's doing that on purpose. He does it every
Yeah, he
single
wants you
time.
to drop something.
Yeah, he wants to like intentionally knock into you. So I've watched my daughter drop an entire tray of food because he did that one technique. Right. So that is my
Yeah,
dog's attack
that's a
vector.
glorious day, man. It rains food from the skies.
That is his attack vector. But yeah, man. So I guess working from home, you got a new job. How's that going so far?
It's I feel dumb, right? Like I'm learning as much as possible. But I mean, I feel dumb anyway. But this is just a brand new world and a whole new environment, and I'm just learning constantly, and it makes my brain hurt.
It's hard learning when you thought you learned a lot and can continue to strive, and then you're like, oh crap, I have so much more to learn
Yeah.
now.
The more I learn, the less I know.
And the more you have to tell other people and want to get it out there. Talking about that, again, me and Chris talk offline all the time about various different things. And one of the things he said was, I had a meeting this morning and somebody was going to come to our meeting, but they said, hey, hang on real quick. I got to finish listening to this podcast. Remember that?
Yeah.
Remember what happened there? Can you tell us that story?
Yeah. It's growing in at least my work environment. They're listening to me when they don't have to, which is wild because like my kids won't listen to me when they're supposed to. So it's wild to see people actively seek to listen to me.
Yeah, one of Chris's kids is going to be an aspiring artist, and I was like, do the artwork for our websites. I would love that.
Yeah.
But
They'll
that
get there. They'll
yeah,
get there.
but that one specifically, where they said, hey, I'm listening to this podcast. Wasn't there a meeting somewhere else where someone said, hey, whenever you talk, I'm expecting to hear
Yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah. They're expecting to hear Tim show up right after me. And then now they're affectionately calling me a Luddite, which is nice. I really appreciate that.
Okay, I was expecting to go one episode without you saying that, but
It's at the top of every episode.
well, I think all of our listeners now know that's a pre-recorded thing that we always start with, but I was hoping to
It's
not hear it.
pre-recorded. Why do you make me record it every time?
But with that, guys, again, that was a very quick
Wave toppy episode.
to ransomware, and again, just based on things from our mind and research that we've done over the past couple of weeks. So, if you'd like to hear more about it, or for us to maybe do a deep dive into one of these ransomware groups, or even talk about how more efficiently to use this data, be totally down for it.
Yeah. The bottom line there is protect yourself, update your stuff, store your important stuff offline.
Oh, and one of my pet peeves about updating stuff is when I talk about verification of files, please don't download stuff from unknown sources. If you know what you're doing, by all means. I mean, you will know if you're allowed to do this or not. I will say that but when it comes to updating files, make sure you're trying to use one of the most stable releases. I've seen people look at releases that are coming out in the future, but the beta's already been released. But again, that hasn't been tested by the company, not verified by the community. Please be careful with those.
And don't download or don't tattoo your passwords on your inner thigh. It's getting painful, and it's sharing your password with the artist.
Yeah, whenever I have to download something or access something that's Chris's, he goes like, hang on just a second. I'll tell you what it is. But anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you did, please consider subscribing, like our content. Again, we also have our website, the OSINTOutput.com. Go there.
I think we have a .org too.
We do. It redirects to our .com.
Oh, perfect.
So I registered both of those websites when we first started this, which again, want to just go back to Chris here, like excellent on coming up with a name because it's been great. And this has been the OSINT Output with Chris and Tim.
Tim and Chris.